Hi, everyone. Welcome to the October edition of the Talking Headless Show. This is a show about technology analysts, analyst relations. It is more towards the mission to elevate both of these professions, as you may say, and give it much more visibility than it is getting today. The show is produced by the Playaz Production Network. You should check out some of the other shows on this network as well. My name is Shashi Bellamkonda. My day job is I'm an analyst with the Infotech Research Group, but I really love doing this too. I took over from Paul Greenberg a couple of months ago. Really excited about today's show. It'll be two segments. The first segment, very delightful guest, Christine Randle. She's the Director of Analyst Relations at ServiceNow. She spearheads the strategies for analysts in CRM and industry workflows. Wow, I spoke to her before the show, and such an extensive experience with large companies like Oracle, Qualtrics, RightNow. And she was such a pleasure to talk to. She's got deep expertise in customer experience, CRM. And the surprise was she also lives right down the road in Maryland. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, here's Christine Randle.
Hi, Shashi.
Hey.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. How are you doing today?
Nervous. I think you already know that I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a behind the scenes girl. So this is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm super happy to be here.
Great. No, you're going to do very well. I was so fascinated when we spoke before the show about all this. You told me about your experience. So let's start off a little bit about why analyst relations and how did you get to this stage?
Why analyst relations? I mean, I didn't even know analyst relations existed before I started working in the technology sector. So it's not something that's taught in college. It's not something that entered my brain as something that I might consider doing. I first started dabbling in AR when I worked at a small tech PR firm in Maryland. I was mostly focused on PR, but we did do some analyst relations there. From then, I joined RightNow Technologies, which was ultimately acquired by Oracle in 2012. And there I focused on public sector influencer relations. And that really gave me a more nuanced understanding of stakeholder engagement and working with the analyst community in a way that I hadn't really done before. So that was really my first exposure. And it was a mix. It was a PR-AR mix is what I want to say about that role. And then when we were acquired, when Oracle acquired RightNow, I landed on the CX PR team, and I helped launch Oracle's customer experience strategy before I was recruited to join Qualtrics. And then at Qualtrics, I was sort of a corp comms girl, managing everything, AR, PR, social media, worked with the CEO. I was his primary comms support there. And I was there for a couple of years before I ended up boomeranging back to Oracle to work on CX, to work on the CX analyst relations team, and actually to support what was the RightNow product, the product that they acquired. They renamed it to Service Cloud. So I was rehired at Oracle to support analyst relations for Service Cloud and Field Service Cloud, and ultimately ended up supporting service, sales, AI apps, and CX industries on the CX AR team. And that's where I really, really, truly learned analyst relations. I mean, Oracle is a notoriously good analyst relations team. I worked with so many great AR managers there that really, really taught me a lot. I was fortunate to be there when Ricardo Rodatis was leading the AR program, just really an exceptional executive who raised the profile of analyst relations at Oracle to a truly strategic function. And we were very, very well regarded there. And I've taken, those learnings with me to ServiceNow. I was recruited to join ServiceNow to lead their CX and industry-focused AR programs, right? So it was essentially the job that I had at Oracle. I was recruited to work at ServiceNow. And I love ServiceNow. It is hands down the most employee-centric company that I have ever worked at. We get
I love how you said a startup still.
Yeah, it's like an enterprise-sized startup. We move fast, faster than any enterprise I've ever seen, and I've ever worked with, whether internally or externally worked with. We develop product very, very quickly here. We are moving fast, and we have a rock star CEO in Bill McDermott that helps keep us focused on our goals. Just a little bit though about ServiceNow, just to plug ServiceNow, such a great place to work. We really do get every known holiday off, everything. Like I'm often like, oh, we get that holiday off too, awesome. And they always land like kind of just when you need them. In addition to that, we get wellness days, we get brain breaks. We have incredibly supportive management team. From the top down, from the C-suite down. I mean, one of the things that I always like to say, we do move super fast. And at a company that's moving super fast, you might not expect the CEO to respond to the comms email about all the great results that we just got from our latest Zurich launch, for example. But Bill McDermott does. And he makes it a point to congratulate his teams, thank them for the work that they're doing to drive the success that we're having at ServiceNow, because he understands that he can't do it without us, right? And without those people. And I just think it's just a really cool and unique culture. And I see myself here for a long time. Hopefully they see me here for a long time too.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think gave a really good insight and very emotional insight into the company. But our other guest is also Brent Leary, is also been very similar to you, an OG in the CRM space. So you both have been on the journey for a long time. What has changed like over the years, especially in the realm of analyst relations?
What's changed? I think that what I've seen in terms of like trends, I think that in the past several years, there's a continued rise of vertical industry analysts. They're super, super important for understanding the nuances of industries like public sector, healthcare, financial services, for example. They're really, really instrumental and becoming more instrumental to the market, and engaging with them is important. I also think, hybrid engagement models they're here to stay. Since the pandemic, during the pandemic, nobody traveled. We used to travel all the time, and then all of a sudden nobody was traveling. For me, travel has not returned in the same way that it was prior to the pandemic. But I really think that embracing those virtual and hybrid models in conjunction with in-person events, I don't think you cannot have in-person events. I think that's the best way to get connected, quite frankly. But when you can't do that, a hybrid really makes it easier to scale programs globally. And that's a big difference. I also think that, if people think about analyst relations, they often think about some of the big firms, right? But influence isn't just coming from the big firms anymore. Really independent analysts and what I'd say niche voices are shaping deals and market narratives, and they're doing it really quickly. It's super important for me as an AR person to kind of stay sharp, know who's driving influence, stay open to new voices, keep listening. It's challenging. It's super challenging to do. There are so many good analysts out there. It's difficult, to work with only some when you want to work with all. So you do have to make decisions. And then the biggest change most recently is going to come as no surprise. If I didn't talk about AI, somebody would be like, well, she didn't talk about AI. But AI augmented AR has really changed my daily work, really helping me to, analyze content, analyze analyst sentiment, track influence. helps me to personalize engagement. The biggest thing I think is its ability to help us answer RFIs or questionnaires for ranking reports, that sort of thing. Not to mention just generating notes and action items. It saves me huge amounts of time. I mean, I cannot overestimate how much time it has saved me. And so I use some form of AI or Gen AI every day in my job, whereas, 2 years ago, that wasn't really the case. Whether it's Grammarly, which I love Grammarly, Copilot's great. Now Assist, Otter for taking notes, even Zoom, the Zoom notes.
I'm a fan of Otter too.
Otter's amazing. Otter's definitely amazing. So, I say, these are the trends, but honestly, embrace them because I think that they're here to stay. And if you want to save a little bit of time in your day, try some AI. Just start testing it out.
That's great. A question that comes up very often when I'm talking to other AR folks is not everybody has the same ROI and not everybody has the same buy-in from executives.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes it's a struggle, sometimes it's easy. What have you seen in all the different companies that you've worked for, and what are some tips that you can give people in getting buy-in, executive buy-in?
AR is unique in the fact that you really do need cross-functional collaboration across the organization to succeed. Like you just can't really do it any other way. So my first piece of advice is to start with relationships. Start embedding yourself with your product teams. I think they have to be your first stakeholder. Build strong relationships with them. And internal partnerships, and not just with product management, but with your product marketing teams and your comms teams as well. Your go-to-market teams, working a lot more with go-to-market teams as well. These relationships internally across your organization are foundational to ensuring alignment and opening doors for quick collaboration, when you need it. If you build these relationships and an analyst comes to you with a question, it's a lot easier to go to somebody in product management than to get an answer than to go to somebody who's never heard from you before, right? So it's really critical, I think, to start by building relationships and embedding yourself with those teams, rolling your sleeves up and doing the work with them. I also think you need an internal champion for analyst relations. So identify who those key stakeholders are. For me, I would say there's a couple really key ones that are in product management and in product marketing that I really lean on to help when I need help communicating the value of something that we're working on. They will back me up and support me and even nudge folks to help me. So it's really important to have an internal champion that can advocate for analyst engagement with their teams and help drive momentum and secure buy-in. Because look, I try to make it as easy as possible, but engaging with analysts creates work for them, right? They don't just have that briefing deck sitting by. They need some support in getting that stuff done. Analyst relations isn't their first and only responsibility. You know what I'm saying? So that internal champion will really help you to push things along. The next one I guess I want to mention is not sexy, but it is important. Stay organized and be visible to your teams, right? Shared planning docs. I mean, that's one of the easiest ways to stay in contact. I have rolling planning docs for each of my AR programs that I run. I have team channels for each of the AR programs that I support. We have regular syncs with folks to make sure that we're aligned. Being visible, they know who I am. They know why I'm doing what I'm doing. They trust me to execute on the AR strategy. And really just knowing that and making it easy for them to engage means they're more likely to engage. And then the last one is tie AR to business outcomes, right? Connect, your analyst engagement to the broader company goals. You can't operate in a silo, right? You have to make sure you understand what the goals are of the company, like are we trying to shape market perception, supporting launches, that sort of things. You can help prioritize AR internally to, unlock resources. So, for example, before every family product release at ServiceNow, and probably at lots of companies out there, right? People are doing this, but we engage the analyst community in messaging exercises prior to every family launch that we do. We want to make
so
sure
important.
you want to speak clearly, consistently, and you want it to be compelling to the market. And analysts can really help us, and do really help us, to refine our messages and achieve better outcomes. It's one of the main ways that we use them. So I think that's how I would say I managed to kind of get buy-in internally, is, building those relationships with my internal stakeholders, leveraging internal champions to help me get the work done and convince others that they need help, staying organized. It's not always as easy as it sounds, staying organized, and then tying AR to business outcomes. And I think that you'll see folks want to help.
Yeah, there's a question from the audience, and sorry, for some reason StreamYard is not telling me your name, and it's just saying LinkedIn user. But thank you so much for your question. I think the question is analyst relations basically the same rhythm as sales outreach, just focused on influence instead of pipeline?
That's the question. I wouldn't agree with that, actually, that characterization of it. I think that analyst relations is about more than just influence. I think we do want to influence analysts. Certainly, that's one of the reasons that I was hired, because we want to influence analysts. But I really think, working with analysts to uncover what insights they're seeing in the market. What are they hearing customers say? What are they hearing about our product? Are they hearing about our product? Are they hearing about our company? Those are things I think that we, want to know and understand. And that's less about influencing analysts and more about understanding what they're seeing in the market and how we can pivot to address it if we need to. So I think, but I do think in terms of like a cadence of engagement with analysts, I think you need to have a regular cadence. And I think that the cadence can be different, depends on the analyst and what the needs are there. I don't advocate for just have a meeting to have a meeting. And in any case, like, I don't want to have a meeting just to have a meeting. I want to have compelling engagements with analysts when it matters. And I think that's probably what analysts want. They're not interested in just chit-chatting either. They want to help us. So, having that regular rhythm of outreach, whether it is an email, whether it is a quick phone call or a formal inquiry or briefing, I do think that it's important to make sure that you're regularly in contact with your most important analysts.
Very nice. Thank you, Jerry Ward, for that question, and thank you for joining us today. I think in the next episode, we'll have Brent answer the question that you put up here. Christine, back to you. One of the things that you might also have done in your career is moved from having a team, having no team, having a team. How do you manage that? And I think in most cases, you probably convinced the company that it is so valuable that you started getting a team. What are some of your experiences being there?
So, when I was at Qualtrics, I think there were 2 people that were on the comms team. So really, really small, and my hands were in everything. When I got to Oracle and I was on a dedicated AR team, it was a big AR team there. So there was definitely a lot of support, but we could have had more people on the AR team because everybody always wants, AR support or some kind of coverage for their program. When I came to ServiceNow, I was taking over the AR program from my now boss, Jeff. He had been running it and a couple of other programs, and I was hired because they really needed help. And then I guess it took a couple of years before we realized that we needed to hire we knew that we were going to eventually have to hire someone else because the coverage area is so big.
Yep.
But we weren't quite ready to engage with analysts in every area that I was working on. So it's really, you have to make a case, and we do regular planning every year. So this is actually about the time of year where I'm already thinking about what other resources do I need for my team to be successful and support the growing product line. And so I'm going to ask for the moon. If Jeff is listening to this, I'm going to ask for the moon and know that I won't get it. But I'm going to ask for more than I need, so that we can continue to build up the team. I just think that, especially in the CRM space, there's just so much opportunity out there. It's a big growing space, got huge market opportunity there. And so I think it's important, and ServiceNow is very focused on it at this point. So it's going to be really important to build out that team, focused especially on the industry side. And then, to scale, because sometimes if you're one person, it's hard to scale, right? Now that there's more people on just the CX team, we can scale, but also we scale by being collaborative with our peers on the AR team. I work very closely with my regional AR teams. Krista out in EMEA, Krista Burnett actually runs global. Krista Burnett Smirk. She's got a married part to her name now. And I've been working with her forever too. She's running our regional programs for ServiceNow. And I work very closely with the folks on her team to make sure that we're hitting all the analysts out in the region. Some are extremely important. There's lots of very influential industry-based analysts like out in region as well. So connecting with those teams, building your strategies together, figuring out how you're going to work together to make sure that everybody who needs to hear what you're talking about hears it. I do think that collaboration is key for that, especially with a really small team.
You're getting a shout out from another of our audience members. The first ServiceNow conference I went to, I was amazed that most of the attendees I met were developers. Fabulous low-code platform on ServiceNow. I think it's probably panning out from IT versus sales, in my opinion. Any comments on that?
I'm not surprised that you thought it was a great event, and amazed at the developers. I think that we have just, probably one of the best platforms on the market. I think it is certainly the reason why we're being so successful in the CRM and the industry space. You're seeing us as you have span out from being what many considered only an ITSM vendor, which is not the case. We do a lot more than that. And I think the market is still sort of catching up with that. But we are fanning out certainly from ITSM into CRM more. And ITSM is a good landing spot for us in organizations, right? We're there, we're trusted, we're the clear leader in the space. So that helps us as we're trying to break ground into new areas.
Great. Thank you, Jerry, again for your thoughtful comments and questions. As we wrap this section up, Christine, Brent was mentioning Prince. What is the connection?
So Brent and I are both huge Prince fans. And I've loved Prince since I was in 7th grade or something, like a long time ago. I used to sit in my room, and you might remember this, Shashi. I don't know if you did the same thing, but this is when we had cassettes, and I would play the music, listen for the lyrics, and then rewind, write the lyrics down, and then do it again. And that's how I would learn. And I remember really famous with Prince songs. And this was how I would learn the lyrics to the songs. I went and I saw Purple Rain in the movie theater, if that gives you any sense of how old I am. And I just have adored him ever since then. I've been to see him twice. Brent's also a huge Prince fan. I've never been up on stage with Prince. Now it's, I guess, too late since he's no longer with us, but his music lives on. And I continue to love it. He's just absolutely a musical genius. I don't think anybody can deny that. So.
We got a lot from you in this short segment. I'm sure we could continue to keep on talking, but I appreciate your coming on the October Talking Headless show. Any last minute advice for people entering into analyst relations?
Yeah, okay. I do have a couple of things. I would say it's really important to be curious. Analyst relations is really at the intersection of product, marketing, and strategy. So the more you understand about the way your company operates and how analysts think, the better it's good for you. The other thing I just want to say about that is if you aren't generally a curious person, then AR might not be the role for you. You really do, I think, have to be somebody who really likes to learn consistently and is curious, because there's lots of things I'm not understanding everything, right? I'm not a technologist. So you really do have to be an intensely curious person. Also be a connector. We kind of talked about this. AR is, you need to know who to pull in, when to engage the right executive with the right analyst, how to align your internal teams with external voices. It's sort of part strategy, part orchestration, but it's human connecting people. And I would say stay open to different paths. Many of us didn't start in AR. I actually studied history. That's what I got my bachelor's in. But, I found my way to analyst relations through a comms role, being a PR person. And I love it. And I loved PR when I did PR, but I love the sort of organized chaos of analyst relations. If you're a communicator, I think that analyst relations could be a good role for you. And then I guess my last thing would be just be ready to learn constantly. The analyst landscape is always shifting. There's new firms, there's new voices, there's new formats now. So you have to stay curious, stay agile, and stay as connected as you can. And that will help you be successful.
Very nice, Christine. Thank you very, very much. And we look forward to having you on the show once more. And let's have the coffee in Maryland sometime.
Yes, absolutely. We'll have the coffee in Maryland. I can't wait. Thank you so much, Shashi. Really
Thanks. And now for the next segment, I have the honor of introducing my friend from many, many years, Brent Leary. Brent is a leading CRM industry analyst. He's been advising companies. He's an author, an award-winning blogger. He co-founded CRM Essentials, which is based in Atlanta. And he often co-hosts the CRM Playaz with Paul Greenberg. You should actually check that out too. So without further ado, I hope at some point I'll figure out how to add some audience clapping to this. But hey, Brent, how are you doing?
Hey, doing good. It's kind of, I think this is the first time I've been a guest on a PPN show instead of always being a host. So this is kind of cool.
The revenge of the audience now.
Let me shout out Jerry Ward. Jerry was one of our active folks on our AI world from Oracle watch parties last week. So
okay, nice.
Jerry back.
That's true. So Brent, let's start with your journey to this whole space. What led you to becoming an analyst, and how have you succeeded?
I think the thing that led me to this way was when I was getting my bachelor's degree in accounting from the University of Delaware. On the day I graduated, I realized I had no interest at all in being an accountant. So I had to figure out something else to do after I got my degree. And that kind of led me to getting an MBA in management information systems. I don't even know if they call it that anymore. We're going way back here, folks. So I got a master's in that, and that allowed me to really take a look at more of the kind of the IT business information system stuff that was going on at the time. I found a way to get my first job was at a company, now it's called AstraZeneca, and I started this rotation. You get a chance to check out different kinds of jobs and see which ones you like before you decide to go forward with your career path. And I ended up doing a rotation in supporting the pharmaceutical sales team, which was before they were calling it CRM. They were calling it electronic territory management systems. And so I started actually building these territory systems on Access databases and Visual Basic Programming. And people that are way too young to know all about this stuff. But I that was my first kind of opportunity to get into like the CRM-ish stuff before it was even called that. And so I did that for like a number of years, like helping to, put new software on sales reps' data laptops and knowing how to help them kind of understand what kind of information they could get from their electronic territory management system. Anyway, fast forward, that was really my first entree into CRM, and then I did a couple of years at PricewaterhouseCoopers, helping them build up their CRM practice in Atlanta. And then after that, after having a chance to really work with some of the bigger names in terms of CRM software at the time, I wanted to go out and kind of do my own thing because I was kind of tired of traveling every week for 2.5 years. So I co-founded CRM Essentials, and that was with my buddy Michael Thomas, who worked at Oracle, and he was working on the Oracle CRM stuff. And we were working at PricewaterhouseCoopers. We were partnering with Oracle to help build a Oracle CRM practice with a methodology and all that kind of stuff. And so we were both tired of like just being on the road all the time. So we decided to start CRM Essentials. And there's this little company at the time that a lot of people that worked with Michael at Oracle left Oracle for. It was a company called Salesforce. I don't know if you ever heard of it or not. So this is like 2003-ish. And we decided, we're hearing a lot of good things. We looked at it, was like, oh, this is interesting. So we decided to build our little company, and really on the back of being a Salesforce certified partner. So we went out to San Fran for a week. Actually met Mark Benioff at the time. This is so early on where you could actually see him walking around and stuff like that. And we were the second certified partner in the state of Georgia when we did. So that gave us an opportunity to just do some pretty significant early on implementations at companies like Georgia Pacific and some other big companies. And we were just a two-man shop, but we were really able to get in and start building a rep. Somehow along the way, I got asked to write some articles for CRM magazine. So I started doing that. And then all of a sudden people are asking me like, hey, could you speak on some of this stuff? And I was like, oh, sure. Okay. I can share my experiences. And then eventually that led me to really have an opportunity to work with a lot of different vendors on, first of all, hearing their CRM strategy, what they're trying to do with the CRM, what kind of features and functions. And then because I was able to have these conversations with a number of vendors, I kind of just happenstance came into this independent analyst thing. I don't even know if I call myself that more than I think I call myself more an industry observer, and being able to talk to a lot of different vendors and now actually work with them in different capacities. But just being able to, I had an interest in the CRM software stuff and how it was being used at all these different companies. And that kind of led me to where I am now. And then, I did have the great opportunity to meet Paul Greenberg. Well, that was 2003 too. So we've been knowing each other 22 years. And beyond the interest in CRM, we just had a lot of common interests. And we decided, hey, we have all these great conversations about the companies that we go to these conferences with. Why don't we just record some of this stuff? And literally the kind of the conversations that we had off air or not recorded, they ended up being the same when we recorded it. And then eventually we started doing video stuff. And yeah, that's really how I guess I should thank accounting for making me know early on I did not want to be one of those, and it kind of led me down this path. So
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic journey. You could almost write a book on that. I realized after this, this question could have been for Christine too. I think what Jerry Ward was wanting to know if there was a CRM for managing analyst relationships and outreach. Do you have any comments on that?
I know there is. I used to know the actual names, but I know there is a specific. There, basically, if you're in any industry, you can actually find industry specific CRM options. So I know there are some, and I know there. I don't want to say anything that I don't have right, but you can definitely find them. I used to work with a company. It was so long ago. I don't even know if they're still around, but I know they are. Maybe Christine knows some, or they're probably just using ServiceNow actually, but there are some. Now, if you're talking about it from like a perspective of how do I mean, how I do things or how I manage, these relationships, because I deal with a lot of people in AR, but you know what? I've been around so long, which is another way of saying OG, or you say old or something. But I just just have these relationships, and I don't know if it's something innate, but I don't use any kind of thing to say, hey, you need to reach out to so-and-so right now. You haven't talked to them in a while. I just kind of naturally do it. And kind of like what Christine is saying, there's so many people, either at companies or like me, there's so many of us now. It's just really, you don't expect to hear or, from anybody one-on-one personally. You do get a chance to talk to people throughout the year. And I look forward to that. But they also are pretty good at sending out information to keep you updated. They're also really good at doing these like quarterly, sometimes even more than quarterly calls, where they get a group of us on a call and they talk about some of the things that they're doing and ask us about what they should be doing or what our opinions are or some of that stuff. So even if it's not a one-on-one call all the time, there are opportunities that you can keep up to date without having that. And I think it's really important because, as Christine said, they have so many people that they are trying to keep up with, and we're all doing different things at different times at different speeds. And you can't expect to have these, a speed dial and expect them to answer the call whenever you call, or 5-second response on email or text. You just can't expect that. And so you have to be able to be a little bit more flexible and, make sure you're able to, stay in touch, but don't go crazy, because that's just, they got lives too. They got other people they got to speak to too. So you got to be a little bit more understanding about, how they respond. But generally speaking, the people that I have worked with over the years, we kind of got a nice little kind of rhythm. We kind of know, this event is going on. I'm not going to bother her right now. I'll check her later, and kind of the same on their end. So I think, you have these relationships, you build them up over the years, and you begin to have a better understanding of, when's a good time to reach out, when's maybe time to let them breathe a little. And I think everybody appreciates that.
That's true. That's great. And Jerry, if you're there, Christine mentioned 2 CRMs, Oz and AR Insights, so that might be useful for you. And so this brings me to a question, Brent, like across the board, right? If you picked out the best practices from different analyst relations teams across, what are some best practices that you think are helpful to analysts?
I'll tell you,
kind of answered a little bit in the previous answer, but
I'll tell you things that I really appreciate is people like Christine, who do like to hear a little bit more than just from us about the specifics of features or functions or specific news. But we're able to have fun. And like when she mentioned something about Prince, I jumped all over it because I'm a huge Prince fan. And then we have these
Well, goes Prince again on this episode.
yeah. So I mean, I remember when we were I was at the ServiceNow event earlier this year, and Christine, we call them not only our friends but our handlers, because in a lot of instances, especially when we're at an event, they help us to maneuver and make sure that we go to the right things and have opportunity to have the right conversations. So as we were kind of walking around, we just start, talking about Prince. And by the time, we're in Vegas and these venues are huge. Like we could be walking for 5 minutes and it feels like 5 seconds, because we're not just, talking about specific things about business. We always mix that in, of course, but we're also having an opportunity to just talk about things that are important in our lives and things that have our commonalities. And so that's really appreciated. And so it's just not about, A, B, C, or D. It's like, okay, we're both people. We both have things in addition to what we do for our, for a living. We both have things we just like. So it's really cool to be able to build a friendship beyond the, kind of the business side of things. And I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of folks in the AR field, AR/PR, that are like that. So that makes it easier, because you're an analyst. You have a lot of things you have to do, a lot of people you have to talk to, a lot of information you have to take in, and you have to figure out a way to put it out there in a way that people are going to be not only find good content or really important, but pleasing, like something that makes them want to look or read a white paper, a 10-page white paper, or watch a 30-40 minute video. It's not just about the information, it's about the way it's presented. And so we have a lot of things that we do, and it's always great to have people that understand that and then are looking out for oh, this just happened internally. This sounds like something that Brent might be interested in. Or, oh, this person just said this. Maybe Brent would like to have them on our show or something like that. And so it's just really cool to have people at a number of these companies that I deal with. I think I have at least one, if not more, at these companies that have that kind of interaction and engagement with me. So that's a couple of things I like.
Great. It's really useful information.
Hey, Catherine, I don't know you, but if you're a Prince fan, you can join me and Christine in our little Prince group. So.
Yeah, actually, this makes me feel like I should save some time to bring both of you back after the segment. But before we do that, one more question is, and this could be applicable to almost anybody. Like there are a lot of new companies, like you just mentioned. You mentioned a very new company called Salesforce, right? So everybody's got to start somewhere. So if a company is starting off new and wants to reach out to industry analysts, what are some ways they should reach out to best practices? So what do you think?
Yeah, I got some ways to, and probably more ways not to. Because, I mean, people want to, get some exposure for their product or service or their executives. And there's a way to go about it, and there's some ways you probably shouldn't. I always go negative, but they're the ones that come up in my head the most. I really do not appreciate somebody who sends me a letter or an email or something like that, and the first thing is, dear first name / last name, or dear Brenton. Nobody except my mom ever called me that. And so as soon as I see something like that, I know, oh, this person knows nothing about me. And so when you don't even take the time to go to my LinkedIn page and look at the stuff I'm posting and writing it, or the video clips or something, and you don't mention any of that, it tells me that you really just don't care. You just want to get some exposure, but you don't have any interest at all in knowing me or knowing what my real interests are, or what I'm focused on right now, because you didn't do any work. So that's like the very first obvious one. And then the second one is when you say you want to know more about what I do, and then immediately start pitching me on something. That's just not a good way to go about it. I remember the very best person who introduced themselves to me that had no direct connection to me, but wanted to reach out and ask me if I wanted to be involved in something. It was Robin Carey from Social Media Today. Rest in peace, Robin. But she wrote, I think I even saved this email. She made it so apparent that she had done, real background and wanted to, know what I was interested in and what I worked on before. And she put this all together in this is before AI. So it was a human created email. And she laid out, she's been a fan and what things that I had done and some of the stuff that I had written in different magazines and why she wanted to introduce herself and in hopes that I'd be interested in working with her on this thing. I was like, this is the absolute best way for somebody to introduce themselves and show that they are not just thinking of what they want, but why they wanted me to be a part of it. I think I still have that email. It's from like 2005 or something like that. I have never gotten an email to match that. Most of the stuff you get are the other things. But that's my, and it's easier today than ever to really do your homework about somebody before you send them an email. What's the point of sending an email which says, and I'm literally saying they had first name, last name, or Brenton, which means you don't know me at all. Because if you read anything, if you've heard me say, introduce myself on any of these videos, you have never heard me say Brenton. So I immediately delete you. Matter of fact, I ridicule them in a segment of our show, but I don't tell the person's name, but I tell this is the absolute worst way to introduce yourself to me. So
it's true. No, this is good. What I'm going to do is, Brent, on this show, I have a segment which was a dream of mine to have a small marketing segment called Marketing While Brown. Hopefully, it will turn into its own show sometime. Mostly, I wanted to share some thoughts, some things that I see that are not mainstream that you can probably use. Mostly, I've been showcasing smaller firms. So I'm going to do that segment, and then we'll have, it seems like Catherine, who joined us, very entertaining comments. Thank you. I also want to thank Paul Warsham for joining the live stream. I love it when the audience can actually interact with everybody. But Brent, just hang in there. We'll have a conversation with you and Christine shortly. Hi, I'm back again. So Marketing While Brown, as I was just explaining, it's just, some thoughts about marketing and trying to figure out things that may not be mainstream. So even though Amazon, big company, people really have to have some kind of a technical background before interacting with any of the Amazon's AI products, right? But Nova is something that Amazon introduced, I think, a couple of months back. It's almost very similar to how you would use ChatGPT, Gemini, or name your LLM. I find it creative-wise, it's got a little bit of an edge for text, images, and videos. Doesn't replace your existing software for creative, but good for experimenting, if that makes sense. You can go to nova.amazon.com/chat and enter any questions. And I feel like they are testing out some of their new features also on that. Now, when we think about the amount of learning that some of these large companies have, like Gemini is learned on so much of billions of Google photos. Amazon similarly also has, because of AWS, a lot of learning data. So something to watch out for. The way you would use it is, again, text rephrasing or creative ideas, but would not advise you to put any work-related stuff onto that. So with that, I'm going to bring back Christine and Brent and probably have a Prince party Yeah.
Shout out to Catherine there. I love musicology too, Catherine. So you're in the group now. Just letting you know.
I don't know Catherine either, but I feel like we have to meet her. And if she's not a real true fan, we'll make her.
Oh yeah, we have to put her through the test. You're right.
Yeah, we do. We have some tests that we.
That's true. So I think one thing that I wanted to talk about, unless you both had something else that came up during the conversation and you didn't find time to finish your thought.
Well, I want to just comment that Catherine also is a blacksmith, and like you don't run into many blacksmiths nowadays. I'm loving it. That is so cool.
That is true.
You don't. I do see them sometimes on YouTube. It's sort of dangerous, right? It feels dangerous activity, hot for sure.
Yeah, I got a friend who has a son who calls himself a boxsmith.
What's that?
So he makes he's into gaming, and all those games that have these weird kind of utensils and swords and all. So this guy actually creates these swords and all these kind of big kind of I don't know, like a hammer kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And sickles or whatever they call those things. He makes them out of boxes. And he has like a 300, maybe now it's up to 500,000 following on TikTok.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Sounds like the perfect time for or the perfect suggestion for people to go look at him because it's coming up on Halloween here, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
My husband was building like wings and stuff out of cardboard for my daughters, when they were little kids. Went trick or treat. Yeah. So that sounds fun.
Yeah, I think Catherine is a colleague of mine from Infotech. Thank you so much for joining, Catherine.
Catherine,
you have friends, yes.
Yeah, get Shashi started on some prints there, Catherine.
Exactly. We'll have a prince party.
No, yeah, I just wanted to say we have more interesting people than me working for Infotech.
I don't believe that, Shashi. Except Catherine. Catherine's pretty interesting.
Yeah, the blacksmith thing did it for you, didn't it?
It really did. It really did. I'm really interested in that and how she got into it. I feel like I need a conversation with her.
So one common thread between both of you was also like how it's important to build up relationships, right? And how that helps. Care to discuss that?
One of the things that we talked about and what Brent mentioned in his interview is just, you talked about like, don't pitch me, sending me some random email. You don't even know who I am. And it's really easy to do a little bit of background research and to find out who you're talking to and what they might find interesting if you're actually going to pitch somebody, via email. What I find for me is it's important, really, really important to know, especially in the analyst community, to try to build some kind of a relationship that's more personal, not just professional. And I don't know, I've been doing in the CRM space for a long time. So I work with like Brent and I don't think I mentioned it here yet, but Brent and I have known each other for years. I worked at RightNow. I've known Paul Greenberg. Paul Greenberg is probably, honestly, the first true analyst I ever contacted. And that was through RightNow as well. Like I've known Rebecca Wedeman, Kate Leggett, all these analysts that are in that space for years. And I got to say, it's not just a professional relationship. We have lots of personal conversations, and because we trust each other so much, right? Brent and I trust each other. Rebecca and I trust each other. Kate and I trust each other. Paul and I trust each other. That translates to the executives or the folks that I'm bringing into the room that need to have some trust in order to sort of like open the kimono and say, this is what we're working on, and I need some guidance or advice or feedback. And remember, lots of times it's like, these folks are working on products. They're like their babies. I mean, they truly, truly are. And so it's really, really important to establish trust so that they will open up. And because I've been fortunate enough to be in this space for so long, and I've worked with some really great analysts and some great AR people, it's helped me, I think, develop deeper relationships and just get better results for the companies that I work for.
Any comments, Brent?
Well, I think we have said relationships and people, and sometimes it feels like sometimes that gets understated as the importance of it. Of course, you want people that know what they're talking about or have the kind of access to the people you want to get to. That's always important. But I mean, I just think people have to, at least people like me, like an analyst, you have to respect what your AR person, how they are engaging with you, and have like real level set the expectations, because you're not always going to be able to work with somebody every year from like an engagement sense. But that shouldn't stop you from making sure you stay connected and stay engaged and stay informed, because I mean, I've worked with vendors for like 10 years, but not every year. It might be this year, and then maybe, other things. They might have some other directions they're going in, but they still, want to keep you connected, and I still want to be connected. So it shouldn't be a transactional kind of feel to it. It should be really, a relationship kind of feel. I mean, I hear some analysts that really get upset that they didn't get what they got last year. I'm like, well, it's not the same year. They changed their focus. We change our focus. Sometimes those things don't completely mesh every year, but you shouldn't feel angry about it, or you shouldn't feel slighted, because sometimes you might have to do something that they would rather you do it with them. I mean, it's a full-blown relationship. I think sometimes analysts kind of forget that it's not about a single transaction. It's more about this relationship.
That's true. Christine, you mentioned a lot of the product folks think of their products as babies, right? Mm-hmm. Now, having been a product person in a different life, people don't like people calling their baby ugly, right?
That's true.
So I think, and I want to see if that is the right advice to you, I think the best practice is after the feedback, you can actually ask, or the best thing is to give it to the AR person in the kind of a summary, so that there are no sensitivities around the feedback. And the feedback should be like both ways. Like, what did you find good about it? What are some opportunities, and what you think is bad? Is that the right thing, instead of just giving it direct to the person? Because this is not necessarily for AR.
So I actually think that's a good approach. But let me tell you what I say to my teams often is, and what I say to my analysts is, especially if we're going in for an inquiry and we're really seeking feedback, right?
Yep.
I ask the analyst to please be brutally honest with the team about what you're hearing and seeing. And I tell my team, I've asked the analyst to be brutally honest with you. Now, that doesn't mean they have to be mean. They don't have to be mean about it, but they do, I think, have to be honest. And I really encourage the analyst to say what they're thinking, because it's intended to make us better. And I also will coach my teams and say, because sometimes, not everybody is a pro at delivering feedback in a sort of a soft way. It's hard. It's hard to know, right? So I know who those analysts are. I've been working with them. So I know who those analysts are going to be. So I prep my teams. I say, sometimes he or she may make a comment and it might come across as a little bit heavy-handed or something like that, or maybe a bit condescending, but that's not their intention. This is just sort of how they communicate. Don't take it personally. Let it roll off your back.
Yeah.
And they really, really respond to that. I think that you'll find, and I wonder if Brent thinks this or not. I think that my analysts that we work with probably sense that my teams are really open to the feedback, want to hear the feedback. because I prepped them to want it. They do take it very seriously, and they know that if they don't hear it from an analyst, they don't want to hear it from a customer. You know what I mean? So it's a benefit. So that's how I do it. But just one more thing, I know we're done here. I like the written feedback too, and you sending it to me, and then I'm sending it to my executive team, and I do think that probably does soften it a bit, and they want to hear it, they want to see it, and I think that that's just another good approach. I do that often too.
Very nice, thank you. Any closing thoughts, Brent?
Yeah, just on that, one of the things that we kind of started experimenting with a couple of years ago when the pandemic hit, were these watch parties that we did for like the opening keynotes at vendors. And the thought around that was we do have a lot of things to say, and we do say them in real time when we're seeing something like a keynote, and we can be critical. But I think the main thing is to be truthful, and sometimes that's critical, but you don't have to do it in such a way like Christine was saying, like that comes across as mean-spirited or somehow it got personal. So we do this disagree, but don't have to be disagreeable kind of approach. And and we've seen, I mean, we'll go now when we go to an event, the first thing that we get asked, are you going to do a watch party? And it's like, we might, and because it's not something we do as paid, we just do it because we like analysts. We like talking about this stuff as we're seeing it. And then some of the more popular videos I make are like the roundup conversations after our opening keynote, and we just go around what are each of our first impressions and what kind of conversation comes out of that. And I was kind of surprised because sometimes they can get a little, little heated. Some things that irritate us, we do go in a little bit. But after, and I'll tell you, it was a RightNow keynote. Right after that, I had this meeting with one of their partners, Genesis, one of their really good partners, and he was like, "Damn, you guys are really going in," but it was honest. It was great. We were taking notes to send to our events team because we want to, try to embrace some of the things. And so, if you do it the right way, and Christine is saying, if you do have some things that you think you want to critique, you can do them verbally, you can do them written, but just don't do them mean-spirited. It's not something that needs to be some kind of personal thing, or even if it's, I told them they should do this and they didn't. Okay, that doesn't mean that you have to be like really hard-nosed here about this. So yeah, I think it is good to hear the feedback. It's good that they're folks like Christine how to prep their folks, because most of the time the feedback is not meant to be mean-spirited. Sometimes us analysts, we can be as passionate as folks building the product. We can be as passionate as folks who have some ideas about what they're seeing. Just make sure that it's not coming across like you're angry. That's my main thing.
Cool. No, this was really great. Enjoyed talking to you. Thank you both for your time, and well done. Brent, help me with finding some clapping soundtracks.
All right, shout out Andy Deere for his last comment there.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Andy. Yeah. Bye, everyone. Join us next time in November. Bye.
This has been a Playaz Productions Network digital broadcast.